All right, good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to the regularly scheduled Planning Commission for July 14th, 2022. If you would, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If it's not obvious, we have some cobbled together components of the Planning Commission meeting, so it'll be a little bit of a learning curve as we go along. So in general, there's a dais in the back for citizen comments, but if you're going to be making a presentation, we're going to ask you to come step forward and do it from the head of the class here. So with that, Ms. Slidar, have there been any changes to the agenda?
Yes, good morning. Changes for the agenda are the following. Advertising public hearing presentation upon request, PDR 2126 CG, Christensen Parcel, Christensen LLC owner, quasi-judicial is a revised motion for approval and a revised staff report in a straight-through underline format. Advertising public hearing presentation schedule, C2115 GCFS LLC, Wright Road rezone, is a quasi-judicial and is a neighborhood meeting summary attached. And item number 6, PA 2108, Ordinance 2261, Ellington 96 Avenue East, Small Scale Comprehensive Map Amendment and Text Amendment, is a revised staff report in a straight-through underline format. All these changes are attached into an agenda memo.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Schenk, is there anything from the County Attorney's Office?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Very good, thank you. Just a reminder for the commissioners and staff, the microphones are probably off right now. If you would, turn them on before you speak or you make a comment. Also, turn them off when you're not speaking. There's a blue indicator, a green indicator that lets you know when the mic is hot. So, all right, with that, the first three applications let's open it up to public comment first. This is an opportunity for anybody in the audience who wishes to make a statement on a subject that is not on the not on the agenda. So is there anybody in the audience who wishes to make comments on things that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion of the hearing and go to the first section, which is presentations upon request. Our first three applications are presentations upon request. So what we're going to do is read the item into the record, open it up for public comment. There may be a brief introduction from the applicant, but I'd like to limit the introduction to just a couple sentences. We don't, being they're on presentations upon request, they're not controversial or there's no items that are necessary for discussion. If there are any comments, we'll then do a little bit deeper dive in those specific issues. So with that, Ms. Lidar, can you read item number 1 on the record, and then we'll swear in everybody who's going to speak.
Okay. C2112, Vote Partners LLC rezone, Reasoner Family Partnership Ltd owner, is a quasi-judicial case and is a rezone for more or less 4.42 acres from residential single-family mobile home 6, RSMH 6, to the residential multifamily 16, RMF 16 zoning district. The site is located on the eastern portion of two parcels located more or less 200 feet west of 14th Street West and commonly known as 5224 14th Street West, Bradenton. The case manager is Mr. Kevin Oldman, and the applicant, the agent, is represented by Mr. Galvano.
Very good, thank you. With that, if there's any intent to speak on an application today, a quasi-judicial application, please rise to be sworn in.
If you can please raise your right hand for me.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representations which you're about to present to this board during these public hearings will be truthful and accurate?
Very good.
And whenever you come to the podium, if you could please just state your name and that you have been sworn.
Thank you very much. With that, for the Planning Commission, have there been any ex parte communications regarding this application?
No.
Okay, hearing none disclosed, we're going to ask the applicant to come forward and again, just briefly introduce the application. Good morning.
Good morning. My mic on?
There it is. Very good, thank you.
Yes, briefly, this is a straight rezone. Property is about 4.42 acres. It's off of 53rd Street, west of US 41. Currently, it's zoned for mobile homes, 6. We are asking for a rezone to multifamily 16. It's consistent with the mixed-use neighborhood. It's consistent with the comp plan, with the ROR designation. It meets the land use criteria and has access to public utilities. And it's really pretty straightforward, and I think the staff report bears that out.
Very good, thank you, Senator. All right, with that, any questions from the commission? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. I think we're good. If we need a rebuttal or any additional information, we'll go to that. So with that, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and make a comment or ask a question regarding this application? Anyone at all? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion of the hearing. Ms. Schenk, do we need to do these independently, or can we do them as a consent agenda? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, with that, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Mr. Ron.
Based upon a staff report, evidence presented, comments made at the public hearing, and finding the request to be consistent with the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan, the Manatee County Land Development Code, I move to recommend adoption of Manatee County Zoning Ordinance Number Z2112.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Smock, second. Any discussion? All right, the chair is going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, very good. We'll go to item number 2. Ms. Lydar, can you please read item number 2 into the record?
PDR 2126 CG Christensen Parcel, Christensen LLC owner is a quasi-judicial case and is a rezone of more or less 16.66 acres located on the west side of Ellington Gillette Road, more or less 1,300 feet north of 21st Street Core East, and commonly known 2703 36th Avenue East in Palmetto, Manatee County. And the rezone is from agricultural suburban A1 to the Planned Development Residential PDR zoning district, and approving a general development plan for 93 residential units to include single-family detached, single-family semi-detached, single-family attached, and multifamily. And as I said, the case manager is Mr. Craig Krause, and the agent is Mr. Clint Koffel for WR Engineering.
Very good. Thank you. And for the planning commissioners, have there been any ex parte communications regarding this application?
No.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Koffel, if you could please just briefly introduce the application.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Clint Kuffel with WRA, and I have been sworn. Again, it's a rezone to PDR of 15.6 acres for 93 residential units. It's compatible with the surrounding land uses and surrounding current projects going on in the area, and we're here to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you. And with, yes, ma'am. Okay. All right.
We did have a neighborhood meeting on Monday.
Okay.
Before this, so this past Monday, and we did a little summary of the neighborhood meeting.
Very good. Thank you. All right. With that, we're going to open it up to public comments. So is there anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak to this application? Anyone at all? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion of the hearing and then open it up to the planning commissioners. What's the desire on this application?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ron?
you want to do it? Mr. Lesline, go ahead. It's a long one. You can read it in.
I move to recommend adoption of Manatee County zoning ordinance number PDR 2126 ZG approval of general development plan with stipulations A1 through A11, B1 through B5, C1 through C4, and D1 through D3 adoption of findings for specific approval and granting specific approval for alternative to land development code 14013E4 to modify secondary front yard for the corner lots from 20 feet to 10 feet. Number 2, 40277 to allow reduction of front yard setbacks to 23 feet from the front-loaded garage to foot strip of grass between the lot and the sidewalk. 31005.3 to allow parking reduction to reduce parking space requirements and multi-family dwelling units to 1.8 per unit from 2 per units, plus 1 space per 10 units for guest parking. 1005.7D2 to allow backing into a public-private travel lane for multi-unit family units. 1005.7E to allow vehicle stacking and spaces for multi-family units.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Mr. Kuffel,
Yeah,
what?
one thing I noticed is you said on the stormwater conditions, C1 through C4, we actually added a C5. That was part of the staff report, red line.
Okay,
So I just want to make sure when he read the motion, it was C1 through C4. It should be C1 through C5.
As amended.
okay, we have
It's
a,
amended in the update memo.
very good. Thank you for that clarification. Mr. DeLesline, you amended your motion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ron?
Yes.
Okay, we have a amended motion and a second. So any discussion? All right, chair's going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. All right, the next application, item number 3, again, is a quasi-judicial, but it's also a presentation upon request. Ms. Lidar, can you please read application number 3 into the record?
Matt Marks rezoned Matt Marks Stereo Warehouse, PLN 2111-0043 is a rezone for more or less 0.30 acre from residential multifamily 6 RMF6 to the general commercial GC zoning district and generally located southeast of the intersection of US 41 and City Avenue East and is commonly known 120 City Avenue East, Bradenton. The case manager is Mr. Kevin Oldman and the applicant is Mr. Peter McKay.
Very good. And for the commissioners, have there been any ex parte communications regarding this application?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I'd like to ask the applicant to come forward and again, just make a brief introduction regarding this application. Good morning. If you could state your name and that you have been sworn.
Is it on? All right. Peter Mackey, and this is for one of our clients, Madmark Stereo. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it. You go down 41, and Madmark Stereo is on the left-hand side. There's used to be a used furniture store past him, but now it's a lawnmower shop. On the other side, it's a vacant lot, and there's a little house behind Madmark's on the side street. It abuts Madmark's property. So he bought that, and he wants to include it into his property. So he just wants to go from multifamily 6 to commercial. Right now, he's just parking a few trailers there in the backyard, but he'd like to use the house as part of his business. It's pretty straightforward. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Very good. Thank you. With that, are there any questions for the applicant? Okay, very good. All right, we're going to open it up for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and make a comment or ask a question regarding this application? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion of the hearing and open it up to the planning commissioners. What's the will on this application?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Smock.
I move to approve, based on the staff reports, evidence presented, comments made in the public hearing, finding the request to be consistent with the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan and the Manatee County Land Development Code. I move to recommend adoption of the Manatee County zoning ordinance number Z 2113.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right. The chair will call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. That concludes the presentation upon request portion of the agenda. Everything moving forward is a scheduled presentation. So the first application, item number 4, McClure Eisenhower. Ms. Lidar, can you please read that application into the record?
Yes. PDMU 2116 CG McClure Eisenhower, McClure Properties Ltd. owner, EPG Parish LLC, contract portions. A rezone of more or less 988.68 acres from the PDR Plan Development Residential Zoning District to the Plan Development Mixed-Use PDMU Zoning District, and approving a general development plan large project for a mixed-use project including 1,900 dwelling units on 960.54 acres and 200,001 square feet of commercial office uses, totaling 28.14 acres, located north of Moccasin Waller Road and south of Buckeye Road Parish, and approving a schedule of permitted and prohibited uses as voluntarily proffered by the applicant and attached as Exhibit B. The case manager is Ms. Dorothy Rainey, and represented the applicant is Mr. Caleb Grimes and Mr. Cameron Miller for CNS Engineering.
Very good. And with that, for the planning commissioners, have there been any ex parte communications regarding this application?
No.
All right, very good. Good morning, Mr. Grimes.
Good morning, Mr. Connolly. I am Caleb Grimes with Grimes Galvano, and I have been sworn. And thank you for being easy on my partner this morning. He's not over here often. He was a little nervous. So anyway, I am here, and I am pleased to be representing Eisenhower Property Group, EPG, Parish LLC, who is the contract purchaser of this property. And I'm also here on behalf of McClure Properties, who I've worked with for many, many years and has been around here for a long, long time. With EPG Properties, we have Mr. Steve Luce, who is Director of Entitlements, who you will hear from in just a moment. Our engineer is Nathan Crott with ZNS, and our planner, who will explain more about the project in just a minute, is Cam Miller. And we have our Ardura is environmental, so if we have any questions, we have Dustin Vaniter here. Traffic has been handled by Steve Henry with Links and Associates. And we have back here, but I don't think you'll get to hear from them today, but Mr. Bob Spencer with McClure Properties and Jeff Gravely. Our request is pretty straightforward and simple. It just happens to be a large piece of land. The land is, as was indicated by Rosina, is 988 acres in size, and it stretches from Moccasin Waller Road all the way up to Buckeye Road. And it is a little bit east of Carter Road, so that puts it right in the middle of all these projects you've been seeing over the last few years, Amazon and the Lennar Tract and all Eagle Point. It's right in the middle of all this, and so it's really almost like an infill project because it's consistent with all of those. The site, as was indicated, currently has planned development residential zoning on it. And ordinarily, we would not need to do any rezoning of the site. But in this instance, with the 988 acres, it's going to have Sawgrass Road, a thoroughfare, going right through it. And we felt it very important to have a small amount of commercial associated with it because when you have these larger developments and what's going on out there, having some commercial available helps with people that are living there, with having to go places and be able to provide some uses for them. So we are requesting to rezone from PDR to PDMU, but understand that it's 960 acres of that will remain residential with 1,900 units. It's only about 1.98 units per acre. And about 3 or 4% of the site, 28 acres, will be the commercial at the activity nodes. So that is what we are here for. That's what we are requesting. And we've worked very hard with staff to come up with the project stipulations and the approvals and go through everything. So right now at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Luce, who will tell you a little bit about him, his company, and what they're doing. I've been working with them for quite some time now, and I've been very impressed with their abilities, their knowledge, and the product that they're bringing forward. Steve?
Thank you, Caleb. My name is Steve Luce, and I have been sworn in. I am Director of Entitlements for Eisenhower Property Group. And to step back just for a moment, we're a large master plan developer. We primarily focus on single-family residential. We acquire land. We go through the entitlement process. We go through the design and permitting process. We hire contractors. We do the site development work, and we deliver finished lots to the home builders. We have this very strong relationship to most of the home builders in Florida. We are based out of Tampa. We have projects from Hillsborough, Pasco, Hernando, Citrus, and Orlando area, over on the Daytona Beach or Ormond Beach area. We go up to Jacksonville, and we're in Savannah, and we're in Charleston. So we're a very large master plan developer, the largest one in, we believe, in the Tampa area. In fact, we have projects just across the border from Manatee County in Hillsborough, about 5 minutes away. Kind of operated in a parallel universe, I guess, from Manatee County, but we are large. We know what we're doing. We're owned and operated. Our owner is a site civil engineer. He's hired multiple in-house engineers. I am a land planner. We have landscape architects. And so collaboratively, we propose and move forward and manage our projects from acquisition all the way through delivery of finished lots. We're excited about the opportunity of now moving into Manatee County, and we look forward to the opportunity to work with Planning Commission, their staff, and the surrounding neighborhood as we move forward with the development of this great site. Thank you for the opportunity to make an introduction. At this point, I'll turn it back to, Cam from ZNS.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cameron Miller. I'm a planner with ZNS, and I have been sworn. Here is an aerial map of the subject site. As you can see here, we also highlighted Buckeye Road and Moccasin Wallow. Moccasin Wallow has a 20-year classification as a 6-lane arterial road based on the comprehensive plan. And then Buckeye Road is classified as a 4-lane collector road for a 20-year classification. Here's the future land use map. As you can see, the general area is predominantly UF3. The blue lines highlight the planned thoroughfares that will be running through the site. The north-south line represents Sawgrass Road Extension. East-west is the representative of FF Road Extension. On to the zoning map. As you can see, our subject site, as Mr. Grimes already laid out, that it's in the PDR zoning district. We would like to be a little bit more compatible with the surrounding area. As you can see, PDMU is the predominant zoning district for this area, especially between I-75 and 301. Moving on to the general development plan. As Mr. Grimes already put, we have 1,900 units on 960.54 acres. The proposed density is 1.98 units to the acre. We are exceeding the requirement for open space at 46% rather than the 25%. Moving on to the commercial area, we are proposing 201,000 square feet of commercial space on 21.84 acres with an intensity of 0.16 FAR. We are proposing some wetland impacts to assist us in aligning the planned thoroughfares, which is permitted per Section 706 of the Land Development Code. And just to touch on, again, Mr. Grimes' point on this is similar to an infill project. Here is a map taken from the GIS website of the county. The pink outlines residential projects, the light blue represents mixed-use projects, and then the purple represents proposed projects, proposed residential. And as you can see, a lot of this area is being developed. There's not much agricultural land and predominantly mixed-use residential development. We do have one specific approval, if needed. It's related to section 1001.4.d.1. We want to extend the limits of 800 feet for a cul-de-sac or dead-end street. This would to allow for us mitigating or avoiding any environmentally sensitive areas or any additional environmental impacts. But that is just if needed. We are hoping to design within the code, but we just want to be safe than sorry. So that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Grimes. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding planning and zoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cam. As you can see, it's fairly straightforward. It's the residential will be single-family detached is what is planned, and there is a couple of smaller areas of commercial with the standard limitations on what can go in there that would be consistent with what we're planning on. The site, as was indicated, it's been PDR since, believe it or not, 1990. So this site has been planned for this kind of use for over 30 years. And it was planned, it was a PDR without a plan, but it was recognizing since 1990 that this is the use that we're going to put here. Very consistent. It's consistent with your comprehensive plan. It's consistent with the projects all around it, and we would like to ask that you recommend approval, and we'll answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Mr. Grimes, the last bullet point stipulation to limit to 1320, the mid-block turnaround, is that on streets that are interconnected, not dead end?
No, what this is for is the ability, right now, a cul-de-sac can only be 800 feet.
Right.
We have not done the final engineering of this. This is a GDP. As you could see, if maybe we can go back to the site. It's a typical site for this area. There we go. It's a typical site for this area, and you can see there are wetlands all around it. And we are going to design to avoid all those wetlands. We're not asking for wetland impacts for those. Our only wetland impacts are because we have to do the thoroughfares where, where some of the wetlands are. That's the sole reason for that. So what we want to do is when we get into it, and we did this, for example, with the Jones rezoning up there, you may remember, is that if when we get into the final design, if the only way to reasonably access a point is to have a cul-de-sac longer than 800 feet, we'd like to have the ability to do that. If we do that, we will assure that there is a turnaround in it, and it will not be longer than 1,320 feet. This is, like I say, the exact same stipulation we did on that Jones tract that's a little bit north of this, and that is the purpose of that. We worked with staff on it. We have their support and approval on it because it is designed purely to save wetland impacts.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And the other question I had is with regard to Moccasin Wallow. I understand there's some future improvements that are being considered on Moccasin Wallow. Does this plan provide the right-of-way necessary to accommodate that?
Yes, this plan is designed around assuring that Moccasin Wallow will get what it needs, and that is well along the way, as you know, to expand Moccasin Wallow for an eventual 6-laning, but with a current 4-laning construction. It's also designed, as you can see, to have the right-of-way for future Sawgrass Road, which is a thoroughfare, and I think it's designed as a 4-lane divided, and then Road FF, which is an east-west road that will go from Sawgrass eventually all the way over to 301. That's that kind of green road in the middle that goes from Sawgrass over to 301, and that's been recognized by I don't remember the names of them, Havel Farms and Amazon and all of those on to the east going over to 301.
Very good. Thank you. Any additional questions for the applicant? All right. Hearing none, we'll go ahead to staff presentation.
Good morning. Dorothy Rainey with staff, and I have been sworn.
Thank you.
I'll just go over my brief presentation with the basics. The request before you, of course, is McClure Eisenhower Properties Limited, and it consists of a rezone of 988.68 acres, considered a large project, of course, from plan development residential to plan development mixed use, and approval of a general development plan for 1,900 residential dwelling units on the 960.54 acres of the entire site, which is at a density of 1.98 dwelling units per acre. Up to 3 are allowed, and then 201,000 square feet of commercial, retail, and office uses on the 3 out parcels totaling 28.14 acres at an FAR of 0.16 and up to 0.35 is allowed. There is a land use equivalency matrix involved with this to allow the mixed-use nature of the project to allow exchange of uses as the market requires. Again, the site is 4 parcels totaling 988.68 acres, existing zoning, plan development residential, and the future land use category is UF3 with some corridors of public, semi-public for, I believe, for power line location. It's currently vacant. The 3 out parcels are proposed for non-residential development, and they're shown on the overall site plan. You'll see as we get to that. Again, the future land use category, as the applicant indicated, is UF3, and so is pretty much all the surrounding property in this area. The zoning, again, plan development residential, and it's going to plan development mixed use, which is adjacent to the east. And then to the west, of course, is more plan development residential. There's an aerial site, aerial of the site, zoomed in as well as zoomed out. You've seen that already. Surrounding uses, to the north is Buckeye Road and vacant property zoned plan development mixed use. To the south, Moccasin Wallow Road and Summerwoods Development zoned plan development residential. To the east, we've got vacant property zoned plan development mixed use. And to the west is vacant, a little bit of vacant property zoned A, and then the Eagle Point development, which is plan development residential. There's the site plan. As you can see, the commercial parcels are proposed way at the northwest portion of the site, right next to the main thoroughfare road that's shown. And then there's also one at the southwest corner, kind of elongated, and one way over at the southeast corner along Moccasin Wallow. The site plan information, basically 2 access points on Moccasin Wallow, 2 on Buckeye Road, 5 on Sawgrass Road, and 2 on the future FF Road. The 3 out parcels, as I did point out their locations, so I won't go over that again. The specific approval, as the applicant indicated, they've given all the details of why they're requesting it to allow avoiding impacts to environmentally sensitive areas when they do start engineering and designing the community and the roadways. So the positive aspects include that the large project will be developed as a planned community, which will result in integration of mixed uses while ensuring compatibility. It has frontage along existing and planned thoroughfares, Buckeye Road, Sawgrass, Moccasin Wallow, and the future FF Road. The proposed plan development mixed use allows the Board of County Commissioners to provide stipulations as conditions of approval within the development to ensure compatibility. And the focal points will be provided along with proposed amenity centers that may include but not be limited to clubhouses, pools, and other passive outdoor facilities. The employment opportunities are provided within the proposed commercial activity nodes for the surrounding community. A variety of residential options are provided that help establish the trending pattern of growth in the area. And the project will be required to connect to public waters and sanitary sewer. The negatives are that the residences adjacent to planned thoroughfares may experience potential negative impacts related to light, glare, noise, and pollution. However, mitigating measures will be that the project exceeds the minimum open space requirement for mixed-use development. And of course, there will be requirements to provide compatibility for the developments adjacent to those thoroughfares. Staff's conclusion is that the rezone to plan development mixed use with the general development plan and specific approval with stipulations are in compliance with both the comprehensive plan and the land development code. That's it. Thank you. If you have any questions?
Very good, thank you. Any questions for staff?
I have one.
Mr. Roth? Can you, these aren't as sensitive as the ones downstairs, so.
Is it obvious that the fire department has already approved the cul-de-sac situation?
They have reviewed the request, I believe. I don't have all the comments that were made but they gave a no objection to the project as presented, so yeah. And of course, they will weigh in and have plenty of say on how it's designed and built at the final site plan stage.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for staff? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak to this application or ask any questions? Anyone at all? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'll ask the Planning Commission, is there any additional information necessary to make a determination on this application? Very good. All right, so with that, I'll allow staff any closing comments. The applicant is waiving off any rebuttal, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeLesline.
I move to recommend adoption of Manatee County zoning ordinance number PDMU 2106ZG, approval of general development plan with stipulations A1 through A7, B1 through B7, C1 through C6, D1 through D2, and E1. Adoption of the findings for specific approval and granting specific approval for an alternative LDC section to Land Development Code Section 1001 4D1 to allow cul-de-sac exceeding 800 lineal feet.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Mr. Roth? Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All right, the chair is going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. All right, with that, we're going to move on to application number 5, Rye Road Rezone. Ms. Lidar, can you please read that application into the record?
Item number 5, C2115 GCFS LLC, Rye Road Rezone, GCFS LLC owner. It's a quasi-judicial application and it's a rezone for more or less 5.44 acres located at the southwest corner of Golf Course Road and North Rye Road at 4201 North Rye Road Parish, Manatee County, from A General Agriculture to the MCM Neighborhood Commercial Median Zoning District. The case manager is Mr. Kevin Oldman, and the case is presented by Mr. Cameron Miller for CNS Engineering.
Very good, thank you. And for the planning commissioners, have there been any ex parte communications regarding this application?
No.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning again. My name is Cameron Miller. I'm a planner with ZNS Engineering. I have been sworn. So here today to talk about an exciting opportunity to provide a good neighborhood commercial use for a residential neighborhood. As Rosina was pointing out, this project is 5.44 acres on the corner of Rye Road and Golf Course Road. We are proposing to rezone to the NC-M zoning district. North Rye Road has a 20-year classification as a 4-lane arterial road with improvements coming, and Golf Course Road has a 20-year classification as a 2-lane collector. Here's the land use map. As you can see, predominant area is the UF3 district. The required FAR is 0.35. We plan to meet that. 30,000 square feet is the maximum size. It would be limited to 3 stories. Onto the zoning. Here you can see we have a mix between PDR and A. This area has seen quite a bit of development and is moving closer and closer to a more suburbanized residential development, similar to that UF3 future land use category. I do want to highlight the NCM district and how it would be compatible with the UF3 in section 401.1.J. The purpose of the neighborhood commercial medium zoning district is to provide for limited retail uses, personal services, and office of freestanding parcels or small shopping centers to serve residential neighborhoods. I think that's a very important piece here because I do believe that rezoning to this and who we have as Child's Hospitality is our client, I think it's a great opportunity for a service and a good commercial service to the residential neighborhoods. Here's a development trend map. As you can see, Rye Ranch was rezoned and approved previously, I think around last year. That also has some activity nodes and commercial locational criteria approved in those plans. So some commercial opportunities coming along with that development as well. Then you see Twin Rivers, River Mist, Foxbrook, all residential developments that can really benefit from this NCM district. We did have a neighborhood meeting back in January of 2022. Next slide will show a few of the questions and comments that we got from this meeting. One was the hours of operation. Child's Hospitality hasn't finalized the hours of operation yet, but the usual hours of operation for their restaurants and different venues is 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Lighting was a big concern. Our client is familiar with adhering to lighting regulations, such as the coastal lighting regulations for turtle migrations and turtle spawning. They're familiar with that, and they will avoid any adverse impacts and be sure to adhere to the code. One other question was outdoor seating and entertainment. There is proposed outdoor seating and entertainment. I think with the effects of COVID-19, everyone can understand how important outdoor seating is for a restaurant operation. We will adhere to the noise ordinance. Again, they're familiar with these ordinances. This is a company that is based out of Manatee County, has several operations in Anna Maria Island. Gamble Creek Farms is another one. They understand these ordinances and will do their best to adhere to the code. Last question and main concern was traffic exiting on Rye Road. As I touched on earlier, the Rye Road improvements are coming and will benefit greatly for this area for traffic calming, things of that matter. Who is Child's Hospitality? Child's Hospitality is, as I said, local. They started here in 1979 when Ed Childs acquired the Sandbar in Anna Maria Island. Now they have 3 restaurants, 4 event locations, 1 farm, as I touched on, Gamble Creek Farms, and more opportunities on the horizon. The Childs Group has a consistent theme and values for each operation they run: local ingredients, sustainability, seasonal methods. So this is not a out-of-state developer looking to put in a chain restaurant, fast food restaurant. This is a local company that cares about their community and local environment, and has several different community partners and charitable organizations that they partner with, work with. Touching on that, again, here's just a few of their local vendors: Dakin Dairy out in Mayaka, Blackbeard's Ranch, Four Daughters Farms right there in Parrish. There's a couple other community partners as well, other charitable organizations they work with, vastly around the environmental sustainability aspects that they really value. In conclusion, I think that this development and this opportunity is compatible with the land use development code, the future land use. I think it's compatible with the adjacent residential zonings, residential developments, and we're excited for this opportunity to provide a great service to these neighborhoods. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm here for any questions. Thanks.
Very good. Any questions for the applicant? All right, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and go to staff presentation.
Good morning, Chair, board members, staff, guests. My name is Kevin Oatman. I'm a planner with Development Services, and I've been sworn in. As Cam had mentioned, he pretty much summarized everything that is being presented here with this project in this rezone. The only thing I kind of might have wanted to add, again, it is the 5.44 property there off of Ride Road and Golf Course Road. Some things I wanted to kind of mention that because that they are proposing the neighborhood commercial, there are setbacks there that they have to guide, within regulations that they are adjacent if they are to residential zoning or residential services. They have, because of the parcel being there on the corner, they actually have 2 fronts and 2 sides. So those setbacks are going to incorporate the 25-foot setbacks on the north and eastern part of it, as well as the 10 feet side setbacks. They will have a 15-foot landscaping buffer there with if commercial retail is proposed, or if commercial services is proposed, which it sounds like that's what it's going to most likely be in the future, will be a 10-foot wide landscaping buffer. As well as there will be a 20-foot setback for the non-residential use to the single-family residential. Again, Cam had pretty much summarized everything that was there. I just wanted to add too, as well, on the western side of Rye Road, there just recently a mixed-use project there that incorporated 1,300 square acres there with 300,000 commercial mixed use part of that. So what they are proposing is transition is, there in that area, which is significant for the proposal on this. Some of those uses that they are allowed within that NCM zoning is, as he mentioned, restaurants, retail sales, car washes, vehicle repairs, things such as that would be able to benefit those residents within that area. Pretty much, again, that's pretty much all I've got. Like I said, Cam summarized everything that I don't really want to go, repeat. So thank you, and that is my conclusion for them.
Very good.
Have a
Thank you
good
very
day.
much.
Thanks.
Any questions for staff? Okay, thank you very much. With that, we're going to open it up for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and make a comment or ask a question regarding this application? Anyone at all? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll again offer the Planning Commission the opportunity to ask any questions. Okay, all right. Staff, closing comments? Very good. Applicant rebuttal? Okay, the applicant's waiving off the rebuttal. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and we'll open it up for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion.
Mr. Ron.
Based upon a staff report, evidence presented, comments made at the public hearing, and finding the request to be consistent with the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan, the Manatee County Land Development Code, I'm going to recommend adoption of Manatee County Zoning Ordinance Number Z2115.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Roth, second. All right. With that, any discussion? I would like to take the opportunity that I think is very beneficial with neighborhood commercial. It's an opportunity to shorten trips. Having something closer to residential areas might allow somebody to shorten their trip to whatever this might be. But it helps pull cars off the road. So I'm in favor of these types of land uses. So,
can I make one other comment, Mr. Chair? And that's it. When I look at the list of things that are approval with this passage, the representation is that this is a restaurant group and they do great restaurants and they're obviously great presentation for their members. But the listing of things that are available when you approve this without any kind of site plan or any knowledge or any affirmation, I don't think the neighborhood there, when you see the housing and the road access, which is not a four-way access point, it concerns me a little bit that you can put trailers there and storage units and stuff like that. And so I only raised the concern because the representation as I see it, and I'm going to vote in favor of, is kind of the assumption of who's the submitter and what they do for a living and how well they do it, and they're a local group. But the code then, with this vote, gives them a pretty broad spectrum of things they could do, and some of which would be pretty disappointing if that was my neighborhood. So I just like to raise that. I know we have our constraints, the code's the code, and we have this process, and they'll get to see the site plan, but the community will never get a chance to go back and say, well, I didn't really want a smoke shop and a convenience store and, those. So I'm going to vote for it with the concern that I raised that the representation I'm seeing is that it's going to be the community group that we know and see and that they represent. So that's my only comment.
Very, very good and noted. But I would like to offer also that the current zoning probably has some uses that are pretty onerous for residential neighborhoods too. So it's, I think in every zoning category, the uses, there might be something somebody wouldn't be happy with. But with the representation from the applicant, I think everybody's aware of their business. It's not an absolute, but I think it at least represents intent. So
Certainly is a wink.
very good. With that, the chair's going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. With that, we're going to application number 6. Ms. Lidar, can you read application 6 into the record?
EA 2108, Ordinance 2261, Ellington 96 Avenue East, a small-scale comprehensive plan, map, and text amendment. It's a legislative case, and it's a privately initiated map and text amendment to Element 2, future land use element of the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use classification of 13.62 acres of a specific real property located on the south-south side of US 301 west of 96 Avenue East in Ellington, Manatee County, to the ROR Retail Office Residential Future Land Use Classification, and providing for a specific property development condition in the text of the comprehensive plan to limit the density and intensity maximum potential to 217 dwelling units or 100,000 square feet of retail commercial uses. Here represented the applicant is Ms. Katie LeVar from Estantec and Mr. Scott Russell.
Very good. Thank you. And for the planning commissioners, have there been any ex parte communications regarding this application?
No.
Very good.
I'd like to just make the point that Mr. Rudisell and I are working on a different project unrelated to this, but I like the full disclosure, just like with Caleb, we work with them on a number of things. So full disclosure, I know the submitter, and we have other business unrelated to this, but nothing on this project.
Very good. And for the county attorney's office, that's not considered a conflict or ex parte.
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Very good. So
Or an admission of guilt.
I'm not sure whose character that would reflect poorly on, but
We all know.
yeah. Good morning, Mr. Rudisill. If you would, please introduce your application.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Scott Rudisill, I've been sworn, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Casto Net Lease Properties. Briefly introduce our project team here. We have Matt Drews and Dan Moyer with Casto. Katie LeBar and Kim Middleton are our planners on this project with Stantec. And then we have Yuri Baikow, who is our traffic engineer with TR Transportation Consultants. This is the project site, and the request before you is a future land use map amendment for approximately 13.62 acres located at US 301 North, 96 Avenue East, from Res 9 to ROR. Also includes a text amendment providing for limitations on those uses, which Katie will get into here in a second. The ROR future land use category is a category that allows for both residential and commercial uses outside of your activity node areas. And so it's intended for, and it's generally limited to your designated arterial roadways. So State Road 64, State Road 70, US 41, those type of roadways is where you'll tend to see these types of ROR applications. And it allows flexibility so the county can be responsive to market demands, providing for a mix of use along these type of major corridors. And US 301 North is one of those corridors. It is a designated arterial. It's actually one of the major designated arterials with a planned 6-lane configuration. So you see ROR here already to the west and with some sites to the east. So with that, I will turn it over to Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Katie Labar, Stantec Consulting Services, representing Casto, Net Lease, and I don't have to be sworn. I don't have to be sworn today because this is legislative. Just to help orient you to the site, you do see the subject site on the property. As Scott indicated, it's located along US 301 at 96th Avenue East, the southwest quadrant of that intersection. Project site is bordered on all sides by existing development. To the north is the Creekside Preserve. It's a single-family residential community. To the east is Veranda Springs, a manufactured home community. To the south is Timberley. It's a residential community of paired villas. And then farther west is near the intersection of Old Tampa Road and US 301 is Parkwood Square Shopping Center with gas and fast food out parcels farther west on the hard corner. The northeastern quadrant of that intersection at Old Tampa and 301 is also the location of a new Lowe's Home Improvement Center at the Creekside Oaks Commons. As Scott said, what you have before you today is a small-scale comprehensive plan map and text amendment. The map amendment is requesting a modification of the comprehensive plan future land use map from Res 9, residential 9 dwelling units per acre, to the retail office residential future land use category. With the text amendment, we are committing to develop the property at approximately 16 dwelling units per acre max, or 100,000 square feet of retail commercial floor area. And so part of the evaluation included a preliminary traffic analysis, and an effort to help simplify that process, we made a commitment to establish the maximum limits on retail development at this location. We also think that committing to that limitation provides assurances to neighbors that there will be a compatible land use form in the future. This is the existing future land use map. It shows the site in relation to surrounding land use categories. And we want to note that the site is and is surrounded by residential categories, but it's just east of a significant area of retail office residential. And as Scott indicated, the retail office residential category is intended for these major corridors, of which US 301 is. And we think that this is an appropriate modification to the future land use map, given the development trends along this corridor. This is an indication of what the proposed future land use map would look like upon approval. These are a few recent, fairly recent approvals along the corridor. And as you can see, residential development has been very significant for well over 20 years in this area. Commercial development has naturally lagged a bit behind residents. And we're now seeing, as I said, region-serving commercial coming to fruition with the construction of the Lowe's Home Improvement Store at Creekside Oaks Commons. You can see that the site is situated near a mix of residential and commercial to the east and to the west, with Silverleaf to the east, Chin Road Properties, which is a Publix anchored shopping center with inline retail and out parcels, as well as Parish Oaks, which is multifamily in the rear with some future commercial out parcels along the frontage of US 301. I just want to walk through a few comprehensive plan policies that were identified in the staff report that you have, and just talk a little bit about how this proposal is in compliance with these policies. First, policy 2.1.1.3 states, designate on the future land use map land within currently undeveloped growth areas at densities and intensities that permit significant increases over current land use designations without creating urban sprawl. This site is located west of the future development area boundary. It's situated in an area of the county that has existing and available public utilities. Again, we front a major arterial and we have access to a local roadway in 96th Avenue East. Another compliance provision, policy 2.1.2.7, review all proposed developments for compatibility and appropriate timing of development. And then there's the list of criteria that are to be evaluated. And these criteria are evaluated by staff at time of a rezone application or a preliminary site plan application. And they include things like the type of land uses that are proposed, transitions, density and intensity, existing natural features, and other elements. And this is a list that we as planners look to and want to demonstrate that we are in full compliance with at time of site plan. So we'll utilize several of these techniques and demonstrate compliance with these criteria at time of development. And then policy 2.6.5.5 says ensure urban infill projects are compatible to their setting and designed to contribute to the overall enhancement of the existing neighborhood. Compatibility considerations include building massing, vertical character, and setbacks within the urban neighborhood. Urban neighborhood projects are to preserve the street grid pattern, on-street parking, and sidewalk characteristics of urban neighborhoods. So this small-scale amendment is considered infill development along the 301 corridor. The setbacks and the buffering that will be provided with the future site plan will demonstrate that we can develop in a way that is truly compatible and cohesive to the existing adjacent properties that surround this site. Just a little bit about public outreach. We did host a neighborhood workshop. It was in person, which is a little bit different because it's been a while since we've had the opportunity to meet face-to-face with residents. We had there were 49 households that were noticed for this workshop, and we had 13 people attend. And we had really good dialogue at the neighborhood workshop. A lot of great questions were asked. Sometimes in a comprehensive plan application, the level of detail that we have because we are asking for this plan amendment is a little bit different. And folks are really focused on how many cars are going to be coming to the site, what are the buildings going to look like, where are people going to gain access. And at a comp plan level, we don't have all of those details. But we did talk through a lot of their concerns, and we explained to them the process and the timing of when those questions can be answered. And so with this slide, I've just highlighted a couple of the key themes that came from that workshop. And just as we talked through at the neighborhood workshop, I want to just share, what is the process and what are the next steps? Should we obtain an approval for this amendment? What will happen with this property? The site is currently zoned planned development residential. It has been for 25 plus years. And so because of that, as you know, with planned development, you have to have an approved site plan. This site does not have an approved site plan. So it's PDR without a plan. And so should residential be deemed the most appropriate use on this property, we will bring back a preliminary site plan. It will go through the entire public hearing review process, and it will come before this body and then the Board of County Commissioners for ultimate approval. If this is deemed appropriate for commercial development, we would rezone the site from planned development residential to planned development commercial, and we would bring that rezone and site plan again through the public hearing review process. And so this is not the one and only opportunity for you to speak into this process or for the citizens, for that matter, to speak into this process, because in either case, there will be another neighborhood workshop. And so I think that just sharing that process is kind of helpful as we think ahead to what the future could hold for the site. Just to wrap up and sort of bring it back to exactly what the request is today, we have an intensity limitation proposed, capping the maximum intensity to 100,000 square feet. We're proposing to cap the density at 217 dwelling units, and we're doing that through what we call a D5 provision, a policy written into the comprehensive plan establishing those limitations. We're requesting an amendment of the future land use map from Res 9 to retail office residential, or ROR. The request that's before you for consideration is consistent with the comprehensive plan. We received a positive staff report, and we've worked very well with staff, and we thank them for their efforts and for just working through all of the details with us. And we ask for your recommendation of approval today. The team is available to answer any questions that you may have.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Labar. I do have a question regarding the restrictions, 217 dwelling units or 100,000 square foot of commercial.
Yes.
Retail commercial. Is there a mechanism that would allow a mixture of each use?
In this case, and given the size of the property and given the size of developable upland, which you can see, there is a significant wetland, portion of a wetland system to the west. In talking with our clients, Casto, development would be either or. The likelihood of it being a viable site for true mixed use is very, very limited. And so for that reason, there is no mechanism built in at this moment for mixed use.
Just as long as that's clear. So
Yeah, no, and fair question. Yeah, very fair question.
very good. Mr. Ron.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On the 217 dwelling units, do you have any idea what that's going to be? I know it's in the early phases, but do you have an idea what that type of housing is going to be?
Likely to meet that density, it would likely have to be multifamily.
That's what I figured, but
It would likely have to get to that level of density. PDR does allow a broad range of residential unit types.
all right, thank you.
Does that density, that's just allowed by rule, and it's not any bonuses associated with affordable housing or anything like
Correct.
that? Okay,
Yeah, we're not,
Are
at
the-
this time, yeah, we're not asking for any density bonuses.
very good. Thank you. Any additional questions?
Yes, the density that you're talking about right now that you're requesting is 15 per acre?
It's very close to 16 per acre. I mean, 15.97, if you round up, it's 16, so.
Is that the base for this area,
Yes,
or
sir.
is 12 the base?
16 is the base for ROR.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Any additional questions? Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go to staff presentation, I think. Who do we have for staff? Oh, Ms. Rainey.
Good morning again. Dorothy Rainey for staff, and I have been sworn, even though, as Katie mentions, it's legislative. So anyway, your request, I'll just go briefly through some of the basic details because Katie covered most everything. The request before you is a small scale. Okay, I had the aerials first. Okay, approximately 13.62 acre site with approximately 4.13 acres of wetlands on it, as Katie mentioned, very significant amount on there. The request itself is a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use category from Res 9, a residential 9 dwelling units per acre, to the retail office residential. And I've done a little summary. It's not in that version. Okay. I did a summary just comparing the Res 9 versus ROR. The Res 9 allows a maximum density of 9 dwelling units per acre or 20 per acre if it's in an urban corridor or with density bonuses requested. The maximum intensity is 0.35 floor area ratio or 1.0 if it's an activity node or urban corridor. So the outcome, of course, is 122 dwelling units or 272 within the corridor and the density. And then the intensity is 207,650 square feet or 593,287 square feet for the 1.0. The ROR that they're requesting the change to Maximum density, as Katie had clarified, was 16 dwelling units per acre, or 32 if it's in the if it's a mixed-use project, or in the urban corridor, or with a density bonus. And then the maximum intensity is 0.50 or 1.0 if it's in an activity node again, or an urban corridor. So that's 296,000 square feet, 643 square feet, or 593,287. Again, as Katie mentioned, there is a D5 provision being offered to limit the density to the 217 dwelling units per acre, and the intensity, or the floor area, the square footage of non-residential to 100,000 square feet. Okay. As you saw, the Res 9 is the existing, ROR is the, I guess we're past that. Existing zoning is PDR, and the nearby projects, which I'm not sure if the North River Village is the Lowe's site. It doesn't indicate. I thought it was Creekside, but anyway, there's the Silverleaf, as the applicant pointed out, Parish Chin Road Center further to the northeast, and then Parish Oaks, 301 Oxford, even further to the northeast. The public facilities available in the area for schools are Blackburn for the elementary school, Buffalo Creek Middle School, Parish Community High School. And then transit, the nearest transit stop is provided approximately 2.6 miles west of the site on Mendoza Road, or 72nd Avenue East, Victory Road. Parks, there's multiple parks and preserves in the area within a 5-mile radius, including Water Oak Park, Olamay Sims Park, and Kingsfield Recreation Center. The positives are that the ROR is a logical expansion or continuation of existing development to the east and west on both sides of the US 301 corridor. Also, the proposed ROR future land use category will allow some infill with the more appropriate residential or non-residential uses that the amendment would allow. Negatives are that with the requested amendment to change the future land use to ROR, the maximum square footage that may be approved for the project is 593,287 square feet, subject to commercial locational criteria. But the mitigating factors, the future land use change will be adopted along with the D5 provision that we went over previously that's going to limit the intensity and the density for this project. And of course, future development shall comply with all applicable requirements of the comp plan and the LDC. Also, any future development of the site will comply with Manatee County LDC, including but not limited to building setbacks, open space, traffic design, roadway improvements, and stormwater requirements. And also, a detailed analysis of capacity and impacts on the public facilities, including utilities and transportation, will be required at the time of future development of the site. Also, adequate buffering, landscaping, and design should provide a transition between the future development of the site and the residential areas. So staff's conclusion is that the request appears to meet the applicable policies of the comprehensive plan as well as land development code. And the request for approval of the plan amendment 2108, ordinance 22-61 is recommended. That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. With that, are there any questions for staff?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
The staff report seems to lean, the support for this project seems to lean heavily on it being commercial, the change in circumstance, just noting that there's a need for commercial and that there's already a lot of residential in this area. And the fact is that this could go either all residential or all non-residential. So would the support still be there for all residential?
Well, I think staff was going on the status of the rezone for this property that's in currently, and it's a rezone to plan development commercial. However, it can be considered for either or, and it will meet as they're getting their maximum density. It is appropriate if they do end up going with PDR and the 217 units. So yeah. As long as it meets the comprehensive plan and land development code in its design, then it should be allowed to be considered for approval, yeah.
Very good. Any additional questions for staff? Very good. Thank you. With that, I do have a 3-speaker card, so I'm going to call each name, and if you would, step up to the microphone, and you'll have approximately 3 minutes to ask questions or make a statement regarding this application. The first speaker card I have is Angela Hall. If you would, come forward. And being this is legislative, there's no need to be sworn. And yeah, if you could maybe turn the microphone on. Is it? Very good. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Angela Hall. I am representing our community. I am the first house when you go into Creekside Preserve, which is going to be across the street from the projected site. I am the first house on the left. I am also on the board. I have got two concerns. One of them is the traffic flow going up and down 301. As we all know, this is a racetrack for Manatee County. I have witnessed two accidents in the front of our community with school buses that have stopped. People are not seeing those. With additional increase of traffic, my concern is us coming out of our subdivision, only being able to take a right-hand turn. Our 221 community housing cannot take a left onto 301. With the projected site, which is going to bring additional traffic and additional flow into our community. So we've got the school buses, we've got, just traffic being our main concern. And then also too, do we know when the decision to make it, whether it's residential or whether it's going to be a commercial site?
Very good. Thank you. And just for clarification, this application is for a comprehensive plan amendment. There will be specific applications that do clarify the intent, and part of that process is transportation analysis or a traffic study. There'll be opportunities, again, in the public forum to come and ask questions and express concerns with a specific plan that you can then view. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next speaker card I have is Kenneth Knight. If you would, come forward and state your name.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Kenneth Knight. I live in Creekside Preserve as well. I'm the Vice President of the HOA there. And listening to the young lady's remarks and everything on this project, talking about it's a small area, so would have to be multiple multi-use family dwellings. And to me, that means more of a high-rise area. And in the area that we're speaking of, everything are 1- and 2-story buildings, nothing higher than that. And I think it would behoove the commission to take that into consideration when they go to approve this. Thank you very much.
Very good. And as I mentioned previously, if by chance it is residential, it'll come in with a specific application. And of course, there'll be 2 additional hearings that would allow discussion related to things such as height if it should be residential. So, all right, the last speaker card I have is Anthony Wallace. Is Mr. Wallace in the audience? Good morning.
Good morning. Is this on? Yeah. Good morning, Council. My name's Anthony Wallace. I'm a resident of the Veranda Springs community, which is located just north of the subject property. Myself and a large majority of my fellow residents are strongly opposed to rezoning it from 112 residential units to 217 units. We have seen a preliminary plan apartment complex from Katy that was 5 3-story buildings, which would tower over the existing single-story residential units in the immediate area and lead to increased traffic noise and even privacy and security concerns for our residents who are senior citizens. There's a new 3-story, 7-apartment building complex that has 280 units and 5 others that are in the planning stages that would add 1,580 units to this heavily traveled corridor. This, along with the increased traffic from the new Lowe's shopping center, the new retail establishments at 301 North and Harrison Ranch Boulevard, and 301 North and Fort Hammer Road will bring. The state-maintained Route 31 is already in need of some serious repairs, Some potholes are 12 inches in diameter, at least 1 inch deep. These conditions will only worsen with the increased auto and heavy truck traffic, and without adequate repairs and ongoing maintenance may lead to more traffic accidents. In general, the area traffic is continuing to increase, and heavy traffic is already common at times from Fort Hammer Road to I-75, which may have not been anticipated during the last rezoning approval. While the local community may be unable to prevent such development, this in itself will be detrimental to the area. Nearly all the residents in the Veranda Springs and adjacent Timberley residential neighborhood are completely opposed to the addition of large multifamily housing complexes that will cause traffic and safety problems, destroy local wildlife habitat, and potentially lower the property values of the existing communities in the area. I also had another question. The rezoning to ROR, is this, are you still going to do it with commercial too? Are you doing residential and commercial?
Just to be clear, is that the only other question you have? Okay, all right. Generally, we like to get the questions out there, and then we'll allow the applicant to provide a rebuttal. But just in general, the application for rezone is going to be a specific plan. It's not going to have the or component in it. It's going to be one or the other. We'll allow the applicant to speak further to that. So,
Thank you.
very good. Thank you very much. And just some additional information for the neighbors. Of course, 301 is a state road, so the process that is going to be associated with the approval of any improvement, regardless of what it is going to include DOT with regard to the application. So with that, I'm going to open it up for anybody else in the audience who wishes to come forward and make a comment or ask a question regarding this application. Anyone at all? All right, I'm going to close the public comment portion of the hearing, and we'll ask the planning commissioners, are there any questions before we go to staff and the applicant to follow up on a couple matters? Okay. Ms. Labar, just, or Mr. Rudisil, just to clarify, not that it's necessarily pertinent with this application, but I believe there was a statement that there's a rezone application currently being routed. Is that true?
Yes. Well, there is a rezone application that is in for planned development commercial.
Okay.
Now, that being said, and we talked about kind of the flexibility in the ROR. I think the intent at this point is actually to do multifamily, and so it may be switching, but the application that's in right now is planned development.
Right. So the application, when it comes in, it will have detail. Will it speak to traffic?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So again, to clarify, there's an opportunity for the neighbors, should they have an interest, to look at the specific request regarding the rezone and provide comment, both again at the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners?
That's right. I mean, I think it sounds like a number of the comments are related to very site-specific issues, the operational analysis on the traffic, the height, things like that, and that would all be addressed at the site plan stage.
Okay, very good. And again, that's a whole separate process, but just for informational purposes, thank you very much. Any other follow-up with the applicant before we go to staff closing comments and rebuttal? Okay. Staff closing comments? Staff is declining to provide any. Mr. Rudisil, do you have any rebuttal or closing comments?
The only thing I wanted to note, and because of the discussion about the residential versus commercial, this is a site, if you look in the staff report, that has already been approved for multifamily. So it's multifamily use is not going to be introducing anything new to this site.
Okay, very good. Is that everything for the record?
That's all I've got.
Very good, thank you. We're going to close the public hearing and we'll open it up for discussion, deliberation, or the chair will consider a motion. Anyone?
I'd like to make one comment, and that's that when you look at that corridor out there, and I've been watching that and worked on it myself. It is changing from a much more rural design and enhancing the intensity on that particular corner, consistent with what the Lowe's project and the Publix and all that's is there. Homogenizing the commercial or the intensity in that corridor just makes a lot of sense because those trips will be consistent, the uses will be consistent. I know that traffic's always an issue, design is an issue, but the idea of urban planning and saying you have a core hub of retail or density and then protect the wetlands and the lower densities just makes good sense. So without knowing the details of it or saying how much traffic and so forth, I just think as an urban planner or a planner of any kind, you just got to say that that's kind of the logical approach, and that without any further insight.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Ron.
Yeah, but with the housing needs that we have currently here in Manatee County, I do like the idea of the 217 dwelling units or multifamily units going in there. We just also like to point out, or to the applicant and staff, is when they come back in, and they would consider part of it to be workforce housing that's desperately needed in Manatee County. But I'm going to support the request as they submitted.
Very good. Thank you. Any additional thoughts before we hear a motion? Okay, hearing nothing. Again, the chair is considering a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion.
Mr. Ron.
Based upon the evidence presented, comments made at public hearing, and the technical support documents, and find the request to be consistent with the Community Planning Act as codified and applicable portions of Chapter 163, Part 2, Florida statutes, and the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan, I move to recommend adoption of Plan Amendment PA 2108/Ordinance 22-61.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Roth, second. With that, again, any discussion? All right, hearing nothing, the chair is going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right, we're going to be moving on to item number 7. I have a conflict of interest in item number 7, so I'm going to turn over the chairmanship to Mr. Ron, and I'm going to step away from the dais. Well, the table.
The table. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, could we take a 5-minute break?
Yes, ma'am. We'll be back in 5 minutes, so at 10:35. Recess till 10:35. And there we go. We're back. So thank you very much. And we're back for item number 7. Ms. Leitert, can you read it into the record, please?
Yes. PA 2202 Ordinance 2220 Project Innovation is a county-initiated large-scale comprehensive plan map amendment and is a legislative case. It's a county-initiated map amendment to Element 2, future land use element of the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan, to change the future land use classification to designate a specific real property from the UF3 Urban Fringe 3 future land use classification to the MU mixed use classification, consisting of 98.6 acres located on the eastern portion of more or less 159-acre parcel. Said property is generally located more or less 1 mile east of the I-75 and 700 feet south of State Road 64 on the east side of Lena Road at 1707 Lena Road, Bradenton, Manatee County, and providing for a specific property development conditions in the text of Element 2, Future Land Use Element, Policy 2.14.1.19, D.519 applicable to the more or less 98.6 acre to limit the density and intensity maximum potential to 390 dwelling units and 992,142 square feet of non-residential uses, and representing the county, and the case manager is Mr. Kelly Klepper for Kimby Holmes.
All right, thank you very much. But yes, sir, you're up.
All right, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? There we go. For the record, Kelly Klepper with Kimley Horn and Associates, and thank you for the introduction, Rosina. With me today is Ms. Monet Moore, who is a land use planner with the team and has been very integral and working directly with the county. Also with me today is Mr. Ryan Hoppy, who is in the back, who is our project engineer with respect to site development, utilities, as well as stormwater. And also in the back of the room is Mr. Bob Agrusa, who is our traffic engineering partner. I think he is known to this commission and this group. So we're going to be here to walk through the project innovation request and answer any questions at the appropriate time. As Rosina said, there are 2 requests before you today. The first one is a county-initiated large-scale comprehensive plan map amendment for the approximate 98 acres. And we'll go over the map and the location here in just a second. But what we're asking for is a redesignation of the property from UF3, that Urban Fringe 3, to the MU, the mixed-use classification. The second ask that you see right there, as Rosina said, is a site-specific text amendment to the comprehensive plan under the D5 provisions that limits the amount and type of development that we're proposing on the site. And we'll talk through that in just a moment. But what we're doing is establishing certain limits consistent with the traffic and transportation analysis that we've performed as part of the comprehensive plan analysis. I will say that there is a subsequent rezoning and a general development plan, or a GDP application that we'll be following. Just confirming with Mr. Wenzel the date for that, and we will be coming back before you with additional information and details, including that GDP. So the property in question, as you can see on the aerial here, as Rosina said, it's just east of I-75, approximately 700 feet south of State Route 64. And I want you to remember this image because it's very telling in a couple of different ways, especially when you start looking at and understanding what's going along that 64-75 corridor, as well as 65 and Lakewood Ranch and that area. There's been a tremendous amount of development that has been occurring over the last 10, 15 plus years. I've actually been a resident of Manatee County for 17 and have seen quite a few changes, and I will say for the positive, in this area, as well as this portion of the county. An integral part to this is the transportation network that we have at our disposal, especially when you start looking at, and we'll zoom in just a second, State Route 64, I-75, Lakewood Ranch Boulevard, Upper Manatee River Road, Fort Hamer, and then also, more importantly, the cross connection to 44th Avenue, which is in process, of course, and the future ongoing connections south to State Route 70. So when you start looking at these properties and everything that's going on, including its proximity to major transportation and these urban nodes, we like to consider this to be an infill type of project. So part of the reason that we are here today is to talk through the specifics of what does that comprehensive plan map amendment look like, and setting the stage for the pending rezoning and corresponding general development plan. So this is just a quick image of the site. Currently vacant. There are some existing agricultural activities that have been going on from time to time. The site is characterized, as you can see, by mostly or primarily ag-related functions. The areas that you see to the south and to the east are actually owned by Manatee County, and it's part of the solid waste facility. There's also a cell tower that is in the southwest portions immediately adjacent to our property. To the north, in between this site and State Route 64, of course, is the remaining portions of the Musgrave property. And then along our western boundary is Lena Road and ongoing development, including the new coastal orthopedic facility, the convenience store. And as you start to think about what's been going on in this corridor, including the shopping center, we're seeing a tremendous amount of growth and development within this corridor. And what we're proposing, we believe, is consistent not only with the comprehensive plan, but also the development patterns and providing a compatible, consistent series of uses. So this is the existing future land use map. And what you'll notice is there is a very large area of MU immediately to our west and also to our northeast. There is a line of public, semi-public, that lighter blue, that bisects the property. This is the large FP&L overhead power lines that we know that run north to south through the county. And then the remaining PSP, of course, is the county-owned facilities. What you'll also see is to the north, of course, is some UF3. And those areas have been developed for primarily single-family residential or a mix of residential uses, parks, schools, and other types of facilities. So there again, when we start thinking about what is happening in this area, you start to see the progression of intensive types of development and usage. The UF3, in our professional opinion, has been more of a holding zone or holding district until such time as a formal plan and approvals could come into play, especially with respect to the 44th Avenue, the Lena Road, and some of the other county capital improvement plan projects. Just for a general reference, you'll see that the property is currently zoned A1, which is the suburban agriculture. And we will be coming back with subsequent rezoning and GDP applications. So just to kind of talk again a little bit more about the map, this is a developing area. And we didn't think that the UF3 was necessarily appropriate given the adjacent properties, the adjacent development, including the county's facility, what's going on with the shopping center and commercial center to the northeast, the ongoing development and the future developments that are occurring or proposed along the west, and then, of course, the 75-64 interchange. So we looked at it from a locational factor. We looked at it from the developments. We looked at it from the thoroughfare and the connectivity components. And what we decided and what we recommended in working with county staff, of course, is that, the MU provides the most flexibility and provides that functional mix of uses that we desperately need within this portion of Manatee County. So the text amendment that we're proposing under the D5 provisions, as Rosina said, is a self-limiting. And there's a couple of different reasons why we pursued these levels, and it's consistent with the traffic and transportation plan. However, also looking at the amount of property that's on the site, the development patterns, what could fit, so to speak, we felt that this was the most appropriate. The mixed use does allow significantly higher densities and intensities. However, once you start getting into some of those, the transportation network and some of the other infrastructure starts to come into question at that point. So there again, we're trying to make sure we're right-sizing the development, especially considering that the projected and programmed improvements are there to accommodate the growth and development. And we believe that this will accommodate all of those items. So what are the positive aspects? The request to the mixed use is a logical transition given the properties that have developed along our western boundary and also to the northeast. There's emerging development trends, the need for additional non-residential uses within this area or more efficient use of residential development. We also identified as a positive impact that second bullet, and this is a big one, especially for Manatee County, that is going to provide that much needed or identified jobs-producing types of uses, whether it's commercial, office, or industrial. All of those things that are necessary to maintain the growing community that we have and also provide those places for our residents to live and work. The other item that we said is, it will also serve as a transition from the Lena Road facility. A couple of things that we didn't note under this, of course, is that there again, it is infill. It is being served by a number of capital projects that are programmed by Manatee County moving forward. There is, and we use the term very lightly, a negative aspect, but this is probably more of a positive. And when you actually start to dig into it, and the fact that there's going to be an extensive roadway network connecting us to both the north and south, as well as the east and west portions of Manatee County. So all of those projects are currently in play as part of the capital improvements plan. Those have been funded and identified and adopted by the county. Some mitigating factors that we have identified as well. There again, the capital improvements projects that are identified, including improvements to Lena Road, the additional future connections to the property, including to the north and to the east. And also that there is a provision that we've identified in there that, at such time as the additional development is coming online, if it does exceed, of course, the traffic and transportation impacts we've identified with this, that we would, of course, be reanalyzing the traffic at that time. So we're not asking for a blanket approval to just kind of continue to grow and develop, but doing it within a certain amount of checks and balances. Some of the just on-site features and the environmental and natural features, just identifying both the soils, the land cover. There was a listed species analysis that was prepared by our team and is supported and provided as part of our application package. Again, Mr. Grusa has been working with transportation staff with respect to a traffic impact analysis based off of the comprehensive plan, including the identification of the major transportation facilities, transportation concurrency, and access. Utilities, based off of the comprehensive plan and the levels we've identified as part of the D5, we're not identifying any significant or negative impacts of levels of service, anything that cannot be accommodated through either existing and or programmed improvements in that general area. And although it says alternative motions, I believe what we would probably be more appropriate to say is as part of this in the conclusion of our presentation, we believe that this request does meet not only the intent and spirit of the comprehensive plan, but it is supported by the comprehensive plan and the various goals, objectives, policies contained within that plan. And we are requesting approval so that we can move forward to the Board of County Commissioners as part of this. And at this point, myself and my team will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the Planning Commission? I have one. Back in the previous slide, being that Lena Road's going to be a north-south connector, it said it's still going to maintain as a two-lane road?
Correct.
From State Road 70 all the way to 64?
That's based off of the capital improvement plan, yes, sir.
Can I ask?
Yes, sir.
Is there any concerns about the location being next to the solid waste facility? I mean, water, airborne issues. I mean, have you investigated this for residential? Because one of the concerns is, we have this facility there, people move in, and then they start complaining that the facility's there. The airport, every place that you go. So my concern a little bit is you put all these residents there, and they all of a sudden say, well, we don't like the dump. And so have you thought about that? What if we're going to move the dump, will you move it? Or
Great question, great comment. I will say that, the dump's there first. It's kind of like the airport, but I know what that means to a lot of folks. My realtor didn't tell me. But I will say that this is probably one of the better run facilities that we've seen working across the state of Florida and other communities with respect to the airborne and also the waterborne components. It's very well contained, it's encapsulated. There is enough room for continued growth as well as significant buffers. And, there are existing residential areas that are in close proximity as well, to the north, to the south, to the east, that I would say would be equally impacted potentially. But through this process, the county owning the property and kind of being the master developer at the end of the day can help decide where and how much residential and what buffering components to go in there as well.
And will there be a prohibition against drilling wells and stuff like that? I mean, it seems like, listen, everybody that's there kind of has, buyer beware, but we know what happens. Yeah, but whatever. What do they want to say? My realtor didn't tell me, my brother-in-law said it was okay, whatever they say. So I'm just concerned about that, and this ownership saying, hey, look, we're taking on the exposure, and we know what the exposure is, and we're going to not disappear like the people that do the storage tanks, let's say, for example.
The one nice thing I will say is it's not like you can hide this facility, being 200 feet plus in elevation. Florida is not known for having mountains or hills. So you start to identify and understand exactly what this facility is. And there again, this is a very well-run and maintained and monitored facility.
Are you moving there? That's
I was going to say, I will say this, Mr. Rutledge, in all honesty, my wife wants to downsize and look for something smaller, so this could be south of the river, absolutely.
One quick question. Regards to the landfill, is there a specific time when they see the landfill coming to an end? I mean, they all come to an end at some point. Is there a timeline on that? Kind of back to Mr. Rutledge's question about if this was developed as a residential parcel at some point or whatever. Is there an end time to that landfill, or is that a kind of public works question?
Wow. I thought Mr. Gerstenberger, I was like, okay, if he wants to take this one, it's like everything else. There's always a lifespan.
Yeah.
There is, of course, the transfer facility. Rob, I don't remember off the top of my head what the where we are in the stage with that.
Is it 10 years, 20 years? I mean, just for a point of question.
Yeah, my understanding is it's at least 25 years, or 20 to 25 years.
Okay.
Let's put it this way, my garbage keeps getting picked up and going somewhere.
Yeah. That's what Manatee County residents want. They want their garbage to be picked up. Mr. Gessenberg, if you want to do it later on, just a general time frame. I didn't need an exact date, but just in a general. I don't need to be like next Thursday or anything.
And so have you done borings already, and you know that there's no encroachment of materials, conduct, product, or anything like? Have you done any research to say that this is a good decision?
We, of course, have not undertaken borings on this particular site. I would assume that as part of any due diligence, and also there's on-site monitoring wells that the facility has that is tracking leachate and other items. So, those are very heavily regulated and monitored. So I would assume, and there again, we'll confirm this, what, if any, are there any issues? The proximity of, I'll call it the hill to where the proposed development is fairly far removed.
But you can understand my skepticism when we see some of these other things that have been monitored and well managed, and they break open and spill all kinds of junk out. So I just, I'm not going to move there, so maybe I shouldn't worry. But I got to tell you, when we vote to say, yeah, we want to put houses there, it's just like the airport. They have a restriction. You can't get too close. You can't expect this. So I guess the staff says they think it's okay. I guess that's okay, but it's curious to me.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Mr. Rutledge, that, we're talking, that, the residential component is a small component. It is a mixed use. The significant portions of the property and the project would be that commercial, office, and industrial.
And I'm much more comfortable with that. Industrial, that's different. Commercial, I built on a dump site in Kokomo, Indiana. It's settled a little bit, but it's still there. So, but when you put residents there, you open up a different game. And that's my concern about changing the zoning and saying we're going to do that. So I don't know if nobody else has that kind of sensitivity. Maybe it's just a personal.
No, I think it's a genuine concern. I mean, we hear that all the time. But are there other questions for staff? Partial staff? If not, what I'd like to do, I guess we'll close the staff presentation. There is no applicant. The applicant is as staff. So what I'd like to do is, if there are any other questions from the Planning Commission, if there is none, what I'd like to do is then move to closing the public hearing and entertaining further debate or deliberation or a motion. Oh, sorry, public comment. Yes, I'm sorry, I got to open public comment. Is there anyone in the audience today who would like to come forward and give public comment? You don't have to be sworn. This is legislative. Seeing none, I'd like to move forward then. If there are any further deliberation, comments, or look for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move to recommend transmittal of Plan Amendment PA 2202, Ordinance 2220.
Thank you very much. Do I get a second? Thank you, Mr. Roth. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the chair also says aye, and
I'm voting opposed.
you're voting opposed, sorry.
Sorry.
Mr. Rogers, you're voting opposed? Can we get you on record for why you're opposing?
Yeah, I agree with all of these things in the esoteric thinking process. I'm concerned about the practicality of saying, yeah, I'm going to put homes next to the dump. And so I like all the other commercial uses. To change the zoning to fit that so you can put houses there just kind of seems inconsistent to the appropriateness of the area. So I'm all good with everything else. I just think the housing component is a suspect, and to change the zoning to accommodate that just bothers me. And so I'm against it.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate your comment. The chair votes aye. It carries 5-1, and with Mr. Connolly has been recused. If that's it, thank you very much. I'll close the public hearing on this matter. And is there anything else for the betterment of the board? With that saying, I'll get a motion for adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.